I don't know how else to say this. I don't know how to say this politely without sounding judgmental, but my in-laws are very conservative when it comes to makeup and clothing and jewelry. Yeah, I got nothing after that. I love my mother-in-law. I really do. But it was just like this moment of, hello, my Spoonies. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time visiting my channel, I would appreciate it if you would take a minute, hit the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell. I am having a contest for my first 100 subscribers. All you have to do is be subscribed to my channel and leave a comment in the comment box down below. When we get to 100, I will do a random drawing and give away a bunch of Spoonie certified makeup and skincare items. So, subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and you might win something. Right? So today we're going to be talking a little bit about Essence Cosmetics. The reason for this is that in a couple of days I'm leaving to go to Montana. My in-laws live in Montana. They didn't used to. They used to live in Seattle, and then they decided to retire to Montana, of all places. That would not be my choice. I would choose to go someplace warm, but it is what it is. So we're flying out to Montana. It is a very long flight for us. We live in Indiana, but there's no direct way to get there. And they live about an hour and a half outside of Billings in this town that has like less than 2,000 people in it. My high school was actually bigger than the town that my in-laws live in. Packing makeup is a little bit of a challenge for a couple of reasons. Number one, you never know what's going to happen when you fly, right? Things get damaged, things get broken. You don't ever want to travel with something that's going to like either disappear out of your checked luggage, which has happened to me more times than I can count, or for whatever reason, security seems to think that the mica in your eyeshadow is somehow a threat to national security. I mean, honestly, it's happened to me. So this leaves me with a problem every time I fly out to Montana, because I don't want to take anything that I'm going to be heartbroken if it's either broken during like flight or is taken away from me. So this is where Essence comes in. Essence is a drugstore brand. You can find them at Ulta, and you can now find them at CVS. They are reasonably priced. I believe the lipsticks I picked up were $4 something each, and the palette I picked up was $9. So the palette that I got was the Salut Paris, and I will cut a picture of this in, but I am actually going to show this. Somebody had actually commented on one of my earlier videos that they want to actually see the palette. I have never actually worn Essence's eyeshadows before. I do really love I love Extreme Mascara. That's what I have on right now. I've not really ever worn their lipsticks. I have one of their lip plumping lip glosses. I don't really think it plumps, but it is a beautiful lip gloss, and it's very opaque, which is nice. A lot of times, you know, glosses are very thin, but this has got a really nice opaque coverage to it. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna swatch some stuff, and I'm gonna try both of these lipsticks on, and then while I'm in Montana, I'm going to try to do a different look every day. I'll have my cell phone with me. But as far as like shooting video footage, I don't really think that's going to happen. When I'm back, I'll do like a wrap up about how this works. So it's going to be kind of like a prolonged review of the Essence palette along with the 2 lipsticks that I got. Okay, so I'm going to bring the camera in close, and we're going to try to swatch this. None of these have names. Just as an FYI, none of these have names. All right, so I'm gonna swatch these really quick. So first color. All right, so I picked up two of these. They're called This Is Nude lipsticks. So the first one that I got was number 4, which is called Crazy. Which always makes me think of that Patsy Cline song, which I'm not going to sing because I'm going to get a... Now this, in the lights, wow, this looks pink. I would not call this a nude on me, but I picked this up because I thought, all right, something with like a little bit of color, and I thought this would go nicely like with the kind of pinky tones in here. The other color that I picked up was number 5, which is called Legendary. This is what it looks like. So it's a little more on the brown end of the nude spectrum, but I do think it's good, like, I would consider this like a good nude for me. So I'm gonna take these two along with this. Okay, I'll be back. Bye everybody. All right, hi guys, I am back from Montana. It was a bit of a thing. I wore this every day that I was there. I'm gonna throw those photographs up now, including some stills with which color I used, because they don't put names on their colors. Okay, so now that you've seen some of the looks that I've done, I thought what I would do as a last step is I'm actually going to do a look. All right, I'm just going to use this NYX eyeshadow base, which is what I used while I was traveling. Anyway, so I used the Essence eyeshadow every day. I also used it as my highlighter. This was an idea that I got from Fumi's palette with Juvia's Place. She has a color in there that a lot of the colors in there she designed to be double duty. You could wear them as blush, you could wear them as eyeshadow, you could wear them as highlighter, you can wear them as eyeshadow, right? This color right here that almost looks white, holy moly is it opaque. Like crazy opaque. Startling opaque. Like I, even swatching it, did not realize how opaque it was. So I not only used it on my eyes, I used it as a highlighter. And the other thing that I brought, and I didn't talk about this, is I brought these Real Technique brushes. I'll put a link to them down below. This is just a very basic set that they make. I like their brushes a lot. They're inexpensive. They're really good quality. And I particularly like these two for travel because I feel like they're really versatile. You can get a lot of eye looks with them. The bigger one not only does well for blending, but you can also use it to put on, like I said, your highlighter. If you have a powdered blush, maybe. I took a cream blush just because I prefer cream blushes to powdered blushes. Okay, so some thoughts about this palette. There's a lot of fallout. It's dusty, right? It's worse for the mattes than it is for the shimmers. That's my first thing. The second thing is that the first two colors, these sort of bone and tan colors respectively, are very pale on me. They're almost close to my skin tone. I think on someone with just slightly darker skin, they're gonna look phenomenal. On me, they just, especially the lightest color, I mean, I'm gonna put it on right now for you guys so you can see. Okay, so this is the bone color on me. It doesn't really look like I'm wearing much of anything at all. I'm not certain how this is reading on camera. I'm trying to look at the monitor, I'm looking in the mirror. In my real life, looking in the mirror, all it does is kind of cancel out the whiteness of the NYX base. So it's kind of turned my eyelids closer to my flesh tone, which is fine. But even going in with this second color, there's not much noticeable difference on me. The nice thing about them is they do provide a good blending base. I am going to go in with this color right here, that kind of chocolate raspberry color. Okay, so this is what happened to us. When we went to leave Montana, we were flying out of Bozeman, which my in-laws live an hour and a half outside of Bozeman. Okay, I'm gonna take this. I have not used this brush at all. I'm just gonna blend a little bit here. And so we were flying out of Bozeman, and when we checked in, initially when we checked our flight, everything was on time. And we were flying from Bozeman to Dallas, Texas, and then from Dallas, Texas to Indianapolis. Okay, I like this. All right, now I'm gonna go in using this dark rose color on the bottom. I'm gonna take that into the outer V of my eyes. All right, so we get to the airport, we get through screening, which hilariously, my husband got pulled aside for additional screening and had to have like a full-on pat down. I know I shouldn't laugh, but it was kind of funny. And ironic, because they didn't even make me take any of my liquids out of my bags. Like, they just were like, going through. My husband, for whatever reason, they were like, we have to pat you down. And I think you'd have to see my husband to understand the humor in this. He's like the least threatening looking person on the planet. Like, he's just... Anyway, so we get through all that. We get to the gate, and we're early only because it was such a drive, and there is always some concern in Montana in the wintertime about the passes being closed, right? You never really know the weather there. So we get there, and we're just kind of like chilling at the gate, right? And we're flying American Air because I'm going to drag them in this video. So we're sitting there. There is no announcement. There is no email. Like, my husband has like text alerts set up on his phone for the flight and all of that. Nothing. But I happen to look over, and the departure time is now delayed by an hour. Now, we are at the last possible gate at Bozeman. I think there's only like 8 gates at the Bozeman airport. And it's pretty much full, right, of everyone that's going to be on this flight. And and there's a woman at the desk, right, but she doesn't say anything. So they delay the flight an hour and a half. And my husband, I noticed it, I pointed it out to my husband, and we're like, oh, because we have a connecting flight out of Dallas. But luckily, we think, okay, we had 2.5 hours layover in Dallas. We're going to be fine. Then I look up, and yeah, delayed again, like another 45 minutes. At that point, I'm starting to think, oh, we are not going to make our connecting flight. Right, this is going to be a problem. There has still not been a single announcement from the woman working the gate at all. And it's hilarious because I can hear people around me sort of suddenly like grumbling and then looking up and then being like, oh my God, they delayed the flight again, right? Like, they delayed the flight again? Holy cow. All right, I'm going to blend this out. One sec. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what I was thinking not pulling the camera in. Okay, so here's the eye look. 2 bone colors, and then the medium rose color and the darker matte rose color blended out in my crease and kind of the outer areas. Now I am going to take a little bit of this middle shimmer color and put it right into the center of my lid. And I'm going to use my finger. And now these go on, like I said, very opaque, and they're actually fairly creamy, which is normally like shimmer shades are where you get the fallout, for at least in my experience. This seems to be the opposite. Okay. Finally, they let us on the plane, right? They let us on the plane, and we get on, and we're sitting there, and we ask the stewardess, we're like, what are we going to do? Because we're worried we're going to miss our connection. And she's like, sweetly, very, like, trying to look it up, and finally she's just like, I don't know. So we're just like, okay, we're just gonna have to hope for the best, right? And then the pilot comes on and says, "Oh, gee, folks, we're really sorry, but we forgot to do the math to make sure that we have enough fuel to get to Dallas." I have no words, right? This is your job, right? Making sure the plane has enough fuel. That's like, I would think that's like the one flight academy. I don't know. If there's a pilot out there watching this, maybe you could chime in and let me know. But I'm not certain how you manage to forget to do the math to make sure that you've got enough fuel. So they, I guess, are up there doing the math, and then they get us all fueled up. And he comes back on about 15 minutes later and says, "Well, the good news is now we have enough fuel to get to Dallas. The bad news is we've missed our takeoff window and we're going to be sitting on the tarmac for another 60 minutes. So I call customer service because I figure, hey, we're sitting on the tarmac and we're not going to make our connection at this point. There's just no hope whatsoever of us making the connection. I am going to take this darker shimmer color right there, and I'm gonna put it a little bit in the outer corner. So I call customer service and I explain to the woman what's happening. And she's very sweet and very apologetic and very kind. And she gets my husband and I bumped back to the 9 p.m. flight. So I think, okay, we're gonna be fine, right? Now, in the meantime and in between time, there are these two young women, and I happen to know their age because it was her 30th birthday, right? So there's way more than a decade between us, right? Which is why I'm calling them young. Because let's face it, if you're in your 30s, you're young. She hears me on the phone, right? Trying to get getting our connection moved. And she's like, "Oh, I should do that," right? So, because they were going to Nashville. So she gets on, she calls customer service. And I can hear her because she's literally sitting like right behind me. And I hear her say to the customer service person, "Well, but the woman in the seat in front of me was able to do it. I don't understand why you're saying you can't get us moved to a different flight." And then I hear her say, "I'm not going to ask a complete stranger for their ticket information," meaning that the customer service woman was demanding that she ask me for my flight info. At which point I turned around and said, "Oh, I will talk to her," right? Because this girl, very, very sweet, right? I had spoken to them like when we were getting on the planes. That's how I knew it was her 30th birthday, right? She was trying to be very, very polite to a woman who was clearly not returning the favor. So I get on the phone, and the customer service rep is like, "You should not have been able to change your flight, and I need to know all of your information." And I basically say, "Lady, it's a done deal. Like, the confirmation already came through on my husband's phone, right? Like, he got the text update saying we were on the other flight." And she's like, "Well, I need your information now." And I'm basically like, "Well, I need you to help these other girls out, right? There is no reason for her to be this rude." And finally, she's like, I tell her my information. Because at this point, I'm figuring we already have the confirmation. So if they pull us from that flight, I am going to be suing American Airlines faster than I can say boo, right? Or at least threatening to sue. Because regardless of whether or not the woman who helped me was supposed to do it or not, it was a done deal, right? So she puts me on hold and goes and gets her supervisor, who I think pretty much informs her that if she tries to pull us back off the flight, as she was threatening to do, that it was going to create a world of hurt for them. So she comes back on and is very snotty with me and says, "Well, just because somebody made an exception for you does not mean that they have to make an exception for the other woman," right? And I am just flabbergasted by the amount of rudeness. Just flabbergasted, right? And I'm trying really hard not to swear, right? So she puts me back on hold, and it's one of those, like, when they put you on hold, you hear this thing where, like, this call is being recorded, right? So I say, while I'm on hold, hopeful that someone is listening in, "This woman is a complete bitch." And I literally turn around and say to the women sitting behind me, I'm like, "This bitch is not going to help you. I am so sorry. I feel terrible. I know it's your birthday. You're trying to get to Nashville. So I give her back the phone. No help. They're basically told, we're going to have to just figure it out when you get into Dallas because we can't help you right now. You have to be in the Dallas, physically in the Dallas airport to move your flights. Really? I used to travel for my old job. I used to travel all over I traveled to other countries to lecture on color theory. And there were multiple times where I had issues with connections because of weather, hurricanes, you name it. That never once happened to me. But somehow, miraculously, American is like, oh no, you need to actually be in the... So we get into Dallas, and at this point it's like 8 something, and it is like the end of a war in Dallas. Like, there is literally, I kid you not, at least 400 people in the customer service line trying to get their flight moved because American evidently has been canceling flights all day. Come to find out, Dallas was having some rain. It wasn't dangerous lightning. It wasn't flooding. They were just having some rain. And from what we could tell from the board, all the other airlines were actually taking off. They were delayed, but they were taking off. American, on the other hand, was just canceling everything. So we go to try to get our boarding passes printed. All right, I am going to now take this, let me get this in frame. Whoop, here we go. I'm going to take both. Well, first I'm going to line my bottom lash with the matte, and then I'm going to take a combination of both the shimmers I used under my eyes. So we go to the gate we're supposed to be at. We get into this line that has like 20 people in it that are waiting to be helped at the gate, and we wait, right? And we are almost to the front of the gate, and they change which gate we're flying out of. And the woman comes over the intercom and says, if you're flying to Indianapolis, we can no longer help you with this gate. You have to go to your other gate. So we go to another gate. And we get in line. And we're about 3 from the front when they change our gate again. And the woman comes on the thing and says, if you're flying to Indianapolis, we can no longer help you with... Now, understand this. All we needed was for someone to print out our boarding passes. And I literally said that to the woman. I was like, all I need for you to do is click a button and hit print. And she's like, I can't help you with this gate. You're flying to Indianapolis. So we go to another gate, and we finally make it to the gate. I guess this is the gate that we're going to take off from because we didn't have to move again. And we get up and we get our boarding passes. And the woman at this gate was actually nice. And she gives us our boarding passes and she says, okay, the flight has been delayed till midnight. It was supposed to take off at 9. It's been delayed till midnight. And I'm going to be really, really honest with you. We don't know if it's going to take off or not. We have the plane, but we don't actually have a crew to fly it. I am losing my mind, basically, at this point. But I do appreciate the fact that this woman was very kind and was trying to give us a heads up and say, we don't know if your flight's going to take off or not. So we go, we eat dinner. We wind up actually sitting right next to the poor women that were trying to get to Nashville, who were then told once they got to their gate, which they also had like round robin of gates, that the earliest that they could get to Nashville would be Saturday evening.
Hey guys, editing Bianca here. I realized I forgot to give you guys the day of the week. This was all on Thursday. So we were also told there were not going to be any open available flights on Friday to Indianapolis, much like these poor women trying to get to Nashville, and that we would have to stay in Dallas on our own dime. That American would not put us up in a hotel, and they were not going to put the girls up in a hotel either.
And they had booked like a spa weekend for their birthday, and we're going to be flying home Sunday. An American solution to this was literally to go, basically sucks to be you. So I felt terrible for them. They took it much better than I would have. Honestly, they were very, they were trying to be philosophical about it. The one woman was saying like, well, I won't ever forget my 30th birthday, which is, I guess, true. So we get back to our gate, and the very nice woman, she's making like periodic announcements, which is a shock because this is the first time this has happened, other than people telling us to change gates. And you know, we get a captain, and then we get a co-captain, and then we get a stewardess, and then we get a steward, right? And she's saying like, okay, the flight, we've got a crew, the flight is going to take off. We are going to start boarding at 1:30 in the morning. Now, bear in mind, this flight was supposed to take off at 9 p.m. Okay, I'm going to take this lightest color, and I am going to put it into my inner corner brow bone highlight, and finish out my face, and then put it on also as my regular highlighter. So we get on the plane, thank heavens, right? And we're on the plane, and we're sitting there, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting. And I'm just thinking, oh dear God, right? And then all of a sudden there's like all this commotion. Stewardesses are rushing by, burly men are rushing by, and then there's like another rushing by, and I don't really see, right, who's being rushed by the last time. And then the pilot comes on and says, well, folks, we've had a little incident in the back of the plane. Somebody threw up all over the seats, and we have to get a crew out to replace the seats and the seat belt, so we're going to be delayed a little bit. I found out later when I was waiting at baggage claim with other people that were actually near what had happened, was that the woman who threw up was drunk, got into an altercation with what they assume was her spouse, because they got onto the flight, like they seemed to be together, and then vomited all over everything. Charming. Now, I'm trying really hard not to judge her, because I feel like if she had been stuck in that airport all day, I mean, if I wasn't on anti-anxiety meds, I probably would have been drinking too. So we finally push back from the gate at 2:30 in the morning Texas time, which is 3:30 in the morning Indiana time. So a flight that was supposed to leave at 9 p.m. finally pushes back from the gate at 2:30 in the morning. So we get back into Indy. It's like a little before 5. The poor gentleman who was sitting next to me, he was en route to see a family member who was very, very sick and had to have surgery in the morning, and he was trying to get there. And this was in North Carolina. And originally, he was supposed to have a flight. He was connecting through Dallas, and he was supposed to go right from Dallas to North Carolina. And now they'd rerouted him from Dallas to Indianapolis, Indianapolis to Florida, and then Florida to North Carolina. And he's freaking out because his flight takes off at like 5:15 in the morning. And he's thinking like, oh, I'm not going to make it, right? Because we're going to land really close to like 5 o'clock. Which luckily he was sitting next to me, and I looked at where he was boarding, and I basically was like, I know American always flies out of the same concourse, and the concourse is not that big. I mean, there's maybe 18 gates at the concourse, I think. So you're going to be fine. And he was, right. He made it to his flight because I actually walked with him, because my husband, we weren't sitting together. We had to be seated apart. And so I just texted my husband and said, I'm getting off and headed to baggage claim. But I walked the nice gentleman to his, because he was older, and I wanted to do the right thing. And at that point, it's like middle of the morning, right? So I get down to baggage claim, and we're all standing there waiting, right? And then finally the bags start coming off the thing. And they're going round and round and round and round and round. And people aren't taking their bags. No one's getting their bags. And we're all just kind of standing there. I mean, it's like some sort of social experiment at this point, right? Where we're all just sort of standing there going, none of us want to say it, right? Because at this point, it's been such a complete and utter shit show from American that we're all almost petrified to say it. So 15 minutes goes by, more and more bags are coming down the thing. So I take my baggage claim ticket, which luckily I had saved, and I go over to the little baggage claim thing, and I talk to some very harried looking woman. and give it to her, and she looks it up and she says, oh, yeah, looks like your luggage is still in Dallas. And then she's kind of like clicking around on her screen and she gets this like momentary look of horror on her face, which I think is the moment it clicks that the entirety of the plane's luggage was in Dallas. I don't know whose luggage we had, but it wasn't ours. And I turned around, I got lucky. Like, I got into line, like, right away. Because I was like, this is going to be Sod's Law. Like, they're going to have lost my luggage. Okay, I was ranting so hard that the camera shut off. I just went ahead. I threw on a little bit of blush. I used the Honest blush, the cream blush in Plum Berry. And then I threw on the Essence lipstick called Crazy. It's from their This Is Nude series. I probably showed this earlier in the video. I'm going to do, I think, a whole separate video on these lipsticks because I enjoyed the 2 shades that I got so much that I feel like I want to get more and kind of like explore them more in depth, if that makes sense. Anyway, so by the time we get home, it's like 6 something in the morning and I don't get to sleep until 6:30 in the morning. And that was my trip back from Montana. So the moral of this very long rant is don't fly American. American, you need to get better customer service. Seriously. Okay, last step, I'm going to throw on some highlighter. I waited to do this so that you guys could see what I'm talking about. I'm using, again, this lightest shade, and I am going to just... So, crazy hair. Final thoughts. I really liked this palette. Yes, it's dusty. I'm not gonna lie. There's fallout, especially with the mattes. And I also think that the NYX eyeshadow primer makes a huge difference. I didn't really get much, I got a tiny bit of creasing with the shimmers, but not a lot. Wearability wise, I would put this on in the morning and it would still, like, my eye makeup still looked fresh in the evening. So it does well with a good base. I had seen some complaints about people saying that it faded. I did not really have much issues with it fading, and I am not certain if people were putting an eyeshadow base under it or not. My recommendation to you would be wear an eyeshadow base. Like I said, this is a great, I think this is a really great palette. Honestly, like, I even could have used either of the darker shimmer colors as blush if I wanted to. And then, like I said, the lightest one makes a great highlighter. It's incredibly opaque. I don't know if it's like translating on camera or not. A couple of the photographs that I snapped, like you could really, I felt like you could really see the highlight in it. I think it's a good product. $9, right? It's a good product. My only real like dislike of it is the mirror. I don't like the mirror in this. That's my main takeaway. I hate the mirror in this. But that's not a deal breaker for me. So yeah, the Salut Paris. I like it a lot. For $9, well worth the money. So I'm giving this my full seal of approval. And American Airlines, you're not even not Spoonie certified. You are like not fit for human certified is what I am going to say. Given the way I saw your employees treating people, not just us, but other people around us, it is a miracle that a brawl did not break out in the Dallas airport. I'm going to be 100% honest. All right. Sorry about the rant. I hope it entertained you guys. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I am here every Tuesday and Friday at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. So until I see you again, I hope you are happy, healthy, and well-rested, and remembering that self-care is the most important form of care. I love you guys, and I'll see you later. Bye, everybody.